Now these burls can be pretty tricky to work with, especially with all the grooves and spikes in them. All those valleys can make it really hard to get into and clean if there's little bits of bark stuck in there. I've tried a few different methods, and the easiest one I've found is a simple wire brush. Now especially if you're painting this, it really doesn't matter if you scuff up the surface a little bit, but if you aren't painting it, just be really light with your brush. The metal bristles will get right down there into those valleys and spikes and clear out any of the bark that's down there. If you go hard on it, you'll probably end up with a few scratch marks, but as I said, if you're painting it, that really doesn't matter. This is without a doubt the deepest casting I've ever done, and I am extremely nervous to open this up. There are a number of things that could have gone wrong. This resin is only meant to be poured 50 mil deep, and I did over 200 millimeters. Now I did everything in my power to ensure that it went right. I did the pour on one of the coldest days in winter. I used the best quality resin that I could, and I put it inside a pressure pot because the compressed air tends to be a lot cooler as well. The pressure pot also helps with the bubbles, as I'm sure you're aware. Even considering all that, I'm still extremely nervous for this. I poured it a week ago, so let's have a look inside and see what we've got. I am extremely nervous for this. I'm not sure I even want to open this pressure pot. It's like that cat theory. What's it called? But there's a cat inside a box, and if you don't look, that cat is both alive and dead. You don't really know, and you can live in peaceful ignorance. I guess it's time to open the box. Wow, we are okay. There are no cracks. That is incredible. I can't believe there's no cracks. It looks like we've lost the pigment out of the rose. And funnily enough, very similar to this project up here, the color of the rose has started to swirl in the resin. But that project up there was a painted rose. This one was real. Let's get this out of the mold and have a closer look. If you're struggling to get your casting out, compressed air is really, really handy. Now the clarity on the sides is a bit blurry, but that is purely the mold release from the form that we casted it in. You can look through the top there and see that it's actually super clear. And the rose even looks like it started going transparent. I think it's gonna have some incredible effects once we get this turned. Before we get turning though, I need to clean up some timber for the base of this project. I got this chunk of jarrah here, and this is what we're gonna use. It's pretty hefty, so let's rough it into a cylinder on the bandsaw before we take it over to the lathe. Right, so I was a bit anxious about some of the cracks in that jarrah that I'm going to use for the base. So I wanted to rough that to shape first so I could get a better idea of the quality of the timber before moving on with the egg. Thing is, we're dealing with eggs and chickens and what comes first. So even though I want to make the base first to make sure that I've got the right timber for it, I can't make the base until I've made the egg because I need to know what final size the egg is going to be exactly so I can make the base the right proportions for the egg. So I need to turn the egg first, even though it's going to be more time consuming with the base if the base doesn't go right. Chicken, egg. So we'll take the jarrah off the lathe and throw the resin on. Oh, that's not good. That is why I always find it handy to put a little bit of pressure on your tenon before you start turning. That was the resin component of the tenon, and that just snapped straight off. Looks like Spider-Man paid me a visit in here. Far out. Now I remember why I stopped turning resin. So, sanding time. Probably one of the most heavily debated topics in woodworking. I don't know if this is the right method or the wrong method, but this is my method. So I'm going to show you how I do it. If you don't like it, be sure to tell me all about your dislike in the comments down below. We're all just out here trying to do our best at the end of the day. But no matter who tells you what process to follow, make sure if you're wet sanding, you add some of this to your water. This is a wet sanding solution by Custom Creations, and I could go into the details of what this does, but I'd rather just say it works magically to disperse particles a lot better in the water, and it just makes your sandpaper last a hell of a lot longer. Take my word for it, it's unbelievably reasonably priced. Grab yourself one and try it out if you do a lot of wet sanding. So, it's been a week or two since that last clip because as you saw, it just went bang on the lathe. So I scoured around, I found another piece of jarrah big enough, and I've created this one, which I like a lot more. It's even got a beautiful live edge inclusion in there, which is super cool. So let's get started on that inlay so that it can cure over the next few hours, then I can turn it flush, clean this thing up. Let's see if I can remember how to use milliput. Oh, and if you're wondering why I've still got the chuck on the bottom of this piece, it's because I have to put it back on the lathe to true it up once the milliput is cured. If I take the chuck off, we run the risk of it not running true when I put it back on the lathe. And I don't want to have to reshape the whole thing. So by taking this whole setup off the lathe, it ensures that this will stay running true when it goes back on, and it'll just make cleaning up the milliput a hell of a lot easier. So I had to use a chisel to remove the tenon from this piece because I didn't have a way to reverse mount it on the chuck. Because it's end grain, it didn't take to chiseling very well. So there was a fair bit of tear out on the bottom. So I used an 80mm Forstner bit to recess the base down to get rid of that tear out. And then I've just made up a little Shio disc. That's about 82mm wide, and I'm going to use this oversized mallet from Holder to force this 82mm disc into that 80mm hole. This mallet has a lovely rubber face on it, which is solid but soft, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping it won't mar up the timber too badly, but it will force this into a spot it probably doesn't want to go. Then I can put the brand across this disc, and a mistake turns into an accent piece. And with that glue up, this piece is finally finished off. I just want to give a huge shout out to Mark and to his father Basil for trusting me enough to create this special piece for them. Now Basil's been a part of the J&D family and been watching these YouTube videos for quite some time. His son Mark reached out to me back in March. Just for a little bit of insight, we are nearly halfway through August, so that gives you a bit of an idea how long something like this can potentially take to create. But Mark reached out, we bounced ideas back and forth for probably a month or so until we landed on what was going to be created. I then set out to source the right products to make these things happen. There is so much in this piece. We've got resin, jarrah, red mallee burl, milliput, she oak, rosewood, color shift pigments, preserved roses, custom plaques, and when you put it all together, we have been left with a one-of-a-kind piece that you will not find anywhere else. And of course, this piece was made extra personal for the family because we were able to include some of Patricia's ashes inside of the piece. She will forever be a part of this piece, and Basil, I really hope you like it. If you're after something like this, a real one-off custom piece, feel free to get in contact with me via the links down below. Emails, socials, whatever you prefer. Even though this piece took so long and we had the massive mishap with the base just completely breaking, I think the final result is absolutely stunning. I even took it one step further and applied a ceramic coating to the entire piece at the end. That's why I can't touch it at the moment. 5-minute epoxy's drying and so is the ceramic coating. Cheers to all you absolute legends that have checked out this video. I know it has been quite some time since I've put one out. There's just a lot going on and I'm finding it pretty hard to get in the workshop at the moment. So I'm not going to say I'll see you next week or next fortnight or next month because in all honesty, I don't know when the next video is going to be. But rest assured there will be another one. So before you leave, if you have enjoyed this, click on that subscribe button and ring that little notification bell. That way it doesn't matter how long it takes to get another video out. YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out. Well, that's it from me today, guys. Stay safe, look after yourself, and I will see all of you legends later.